Hi, I'm Antonio, owner of Mercantile Accounting, and this is the first episode of the Mercantile Minute. Today I'll be chatting with Jayson. Jayson comes from the world of high-end cocktails. He's a ice cream-based Guinness World Record holder, and he's on a mission to turn rice pudding into a fun, modern dessert. So he and his girlfriend created a brand called RizzRice, and they're using food markets in and around London and the rest of the UK to really perfect this product before trying to roll it out on a large scale. We'll link descriptions and socials for RizzRice below. Without any further ado, here's my chat with Jayson. Give us a sort of a general background, like what is RizzRice? How have you gotten to where you are in the process today?
Cool. So RizzRice is Britain's first rice pudding bar. We're a street food company based out of Waterloo, London. We started this company back in November of 2023. Basically for the sole reason of we felt rice pudding needed a glow up, frankly. We felt that everything on the market that was about rice pudding was pretty stagnant.
Right.
And we just felt that this dessert, this offering that is recognized by almost every single country in the world, needs a bit more recognition. You know, you're not finding this pudding on menus in restaurants anymore. No one's really eating it at home. You're only finding it in stores or where your grandmother's making it for you, or you're getting it in boarding school. You know,
Right.
so the pudding's got a pretty bad rep in terms of the dessert market right now.
Right.
And growing up, I ate a ton of rice pudding, and so did my girlfriend who runs the company with me. So when we decided we want to do a food concept, rice pudding naturally came as an idea, you know.
Right.
Taking such humble ingredients, you know, milk, rice and sugar, taking humble ingredients and turning it into something that is, you know, larger than life and hasn't really been seen before. So
Milk, rice, and a lot of Oreos and Nutella.
And a lot of Oreos and Nutella. Yeah. Well, that is one of the really nice things about rice pudding, you know, it's that the rice pudding itself is basically just a vessel for flavour. That's what we say, you know. So it's like having a vanilla ice cream, basically. You can add anything on top of it. So yeah, that's what we do, basically, and that's what we pride ourselves in on our street food stands. So we let customers come and get a pot of rice pudding, and then we obviously have our set menu of toppings that we've tried and tested and recommend that customers can get on their rice pudding. But we have an option which is called the Rizz It Up menu, where they can basically choose their base, whether they want it hot or cold. We came on such good timing. I don't even know how that happened. But yeah, I think Rizz was a very calculated move in terms of the naming of the company. Obviously because of the cultural trend of the word Rizz, you know, like having some charisma. Or when you have Rizz, you know, you have like energy and you just have like that little bit of an edge. And that's what we thought our rice pudding was going to be. You know, if we're trying to make rice pudding that is sort of against the grain, pun intended, and doing something a little bit different, our rice pudding has charisma. You know, it has personality and it has the feeling of being able to indulge yourself and get away with it. You know, our pudding pots are only 120 calories a pot for a large. So it's actually, you can actually get away with having it, you know. So it's got Rizz, the product has got Rizz, but also Rizz means rice in so many languages.
Oh,
you know?
Spanish arroz or...
So you have arroz con leche, you have rissolat, you have so many different varieties, but the word Rizz directly translates to rice in Italian, Arabic, and a few other languages that I'm not going to get right now. But having that translation, so it's rice technically, but it's also Rizz with a bit of charisma, you know, so that was basically how the name came to be. And it just happened to be the word of the year for 2023 when we started the company, so that was brilliant.
The branding process then, how do you get to RizzRice? And I mean, you've got a fantastic, I mean, your social medias, your website, everything looks great. How do you get to that point in your branding? What was your sort of process behind getting there?
So, firstly, I love branding. I love marketing. I love everything to do with it. You know, when I'm, say, like in the underground, for example, I'm always reading the adverts, and I like to see what different companies do. So I made this a very difficult task for myself, because I would I'd go back and forth about the branding. But I think what was important to remember was that we're a desserts trader, right? So we needed to angle our message and our branding and our color scheme and everything towards the desserts world, but then make it applicable to rice pudding,
Right.
if that makes sense. So we went for the color pink, like 3 different shades of pink. That's which it may or may not be fairly common in the desserts world, but I think it is quite a.
It's fun. It's playful.
It's fun and it's playful, and I don't think that has put us in a box necessarily. But I think the color pink works quite well for us, and the way that our logo is set up, it's nice, like round, bulky letters that sort of like imitate grains of rice.
Yeah.
And there's like little bits off the bottom of the words that look like it's dripping.
Yeah.
And then that carries forward into, say, what our website looks like. So when you scroll through our website, you'll see the dripping effect as it goes from page to page, and like all the different pinks are highlighted there. So yeah, that's basically how it came to be. Choosing a font was obviously quite difficult at first, because you basically have to say, and I think anyone starting a small company can appreciate when you have to pick your color scheme, you have to pick your font, you're basically picking the image of your company and the culture of your company. So we went through so many different ideas. Like, I'd make the website homepage, I'd look at it and be like, no, try it again, and then we eventually landed on something that was playful but formal at the same time, because when you're selling your brand, we need to sell on street food, but then we also need to, say, make proposals for collaborations or reach out to different street food markets, and you need to have a bit of a professional side to what your brand is, as well as the playful side. So it was finding that middle ground.
Exactly.
That was the tricky part, but I think we got there. There's also that other one where it's it's called Kiki and Boba, something like that.
Oh, with the shapes. Yeah.
With the shapes, So when I look at Riz, I'm like, is this Kiki or Boba? And I would say it's definitely more Boba.
Right.
I don't know if Boba's the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Exactly. It's more like wholesome.
Yeah.
Whereas like Kiki would be more like, I don't know, like a chicken wing company.
Right.
Where it's more like edgy and in your face. We're edgy, but we're more like wholesome.
Right.
Like we want families to come with their kids to us. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have any brand names you almost went with, and I'm really glad you didn't?
Yes, I don't know if I should be sharing them, but I will. One thing I was going to do. So one of our products for Riz is our no waste policy, where we will take any of our excess rice pudding that we've made that day. We'll then turn into sweet arancini, which we air fry in a cereal crumb. But before we got to the idea of we're going to roll out with rice pudding, we were going to do sweet arancini. That was going to be like the leading business model. Before I was like, hey, you have to, in order to make the arancini, you have to make all the rice pudding anyway. So I was like, we'll just do that. But I was going to call it the Balls Company. And then I made the website page and I looked at it and I was like, this is terrible. This is terrible. I can't go onto my LinkedIn and post I'm working at the Balls Company. I was like, yeah. So that was one option. And then for when we were like, okay, we're going to do rice pudding. Obviously we were bouncing around ideas. Nothing that really sticks in my mind right now of like that was going to be the name. But I remember we were lying in bed, my girlfriend and I, and it must have been the middle of the night, and then she had like a resurrection and woke me up, and she was like, well, we're calling it Riz. And I was like, what? Calling what? And she was like, we'll talk about it in the morning, but it's called Riz. And I was like, okay. And then the next day, obviously, or whenever we spoke about it, we started to refer to the idea as Riz. We would say, like, we're not going to call it the company or the what anymore. We just started calling it RizzRice to see how it feels, basically. Because this was back in, like, say, May, June, when we were starting in August, September. Yeah. So we had the time, we had the time before anything happened to find the right name. And I thought it was really nice that you can shorten RizzRice to Rizz, you know, because it's catchier, and you can just say Rizz, you know. And we refer to the company as Rizz all the time now, because it's easier than saying RizzRice, and Rizz means rice anyway, so you're saying the same thing anyway. So we quite quickly got to RizzRice, but only after we developed the whole website for the balls company.
So I mean, you say you started in November, but the work started well before then, and you hit the ground hard. Because I mean, you guys obviously, one of your first big markets was the South Bank Christmas market, which I mean, for anyone who doesn't sort of understand London food market scene, it's a big market to get into.
It's a beast, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beast.
So how do you go from 0 to 100 that quick?
So, gosh, that's a good question. I suppose it helps that I had a background in the food and bev industry, specifically the catering world. You know, I was very, very used to arriving on site with everything in the van, setting up, service, breaking down, and doing it again. I was doing corporate food and bev catering for like 6 years.
And you've got a reputation of being able to do that.
Yes, yeah. So been doing it actually all over the world now for the past 5 or 6 years. So with that, to come back to the point, with that there's a lot of, especially in the UK, there's a lot of health and safety loops or hoops that you have to jump through. There's a lot of different factors in order to start up a food and bev business that if you don't know and if you're fresh to the industry, it'll take you some time to get comfortable, to get counter registration, to get through the whole process. So fortunately, starting this, I basically knew like 80% of the hoops I had to jump through to get started, you know? And I think the growth or the initial attention came from how well prepared we were in the beginning, you know? When I launched the company, say in the middle of August, I had everything ready to go, you know? So I was basically prepping in the dark for months before I announced publicly. And when I announced publicly that we were starting, I had a year of menus. I had brand decks to share with companies. I had basically everything ready to go that you might not necessarily have on launch day, if that makes sense. Because companies will be like, we're a new company. Let me start looking at things, you know? So I did all the prep work before when I was still full-time employed in other companies. So that when I launched, I had already reached out to markets to be like, hey, we're a new concept. We're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested?
Right, exactly.
You know, would you be interested in having us for a Christmas festival? Would you be interested in having us for a guest shift? And just sort of playing the field to see that, okay, if we're going to launch, when is the right time of year to launch? And that was also a tactical decision. I decided to launch in September so that September, October, I could secure pitches for the Christmas season, because rice pudding is best enjoyed hot, in my opinion. And I thought the launch of a new rice pudding company would be done best in the winter. So I didn't start and say like April, because if you know the street food world, if you want to be trading in the summer, your pitches have to be agreed in February or January. So if you start a street food company in say March or April, you're going to struggle to get anything over the summer. Anyway. You got nothing until Christmas anyway. So it's understanding the timing based on how the pitches work. You know, when you're in the summer, you're planning for the winter. When you're in the winter, you're planning for the summer. So September was an optimal time to already have my winter gigs lined up, and then September, October, soft launch, you know, getting the name out there, building up the social media accounts. And then November we went live. We went live with Kingston. So I can take the credit for Kingston, but South Bank came to us. I don't know, I got an email one day, they were like,
see what you're doing.
We love your concept. They wanted us involved purely from the perspective of we can adapt our pudding offering to certain themes or certain aspects. You know? So for example, and I'm not hating on pizza companies, but if you sell pizza, and it's now Christmas, you can maybe
Yeah.
make a sort of Christmassy
Yeah.
pizza, but then when it's Easter, you can make a sort of, you know,
Chocolate,
like, or like say burgers is also a good example. You can make some minor adjustments, but at the end of the day, it's still a burger, you know.
Right, yeah.
But with us, we can change the base, we can change the toppings, we can change everything to make it suitable to the occasion, and that's better done in desserts, I find.
Yeah.
You know, like if I'm going for a pad thai, I don't want an Easter pad thai.
Yeah.
You know, I want to eat the pad thai, but then I want to go have like an Easter flavored rice pudding or an Easter flavored donut or something.
Yeah.
So that's why they brought us on over the Christmas period, because no one in the market was gearing for something specifically for Christmas, you know, to bring in the Christmas mood into the market.
Sure.
So they brought us in for that. We did a Christmas rice pudding, which was the best seller.
Yeah.
Because that's what we advertised the most. And that was really cool. So we did 2 weekends with them, like guest shifts is what they called them. And at the same time as Kingston, which posed a pretty big problem actually.
Yeah.
In my startup world, that was a pretty big
decision
to
make.
make.
2 sites to run
You know what I mean? And like you only have X amount of capital to start the company.
Yeah.
And then I basically bought everything for Kingston,
Right.
the first Christmas market that was running for 52 days straight.
Yeah.
So never traded a day before, and now we're going to do 52 days, 7 days a week.
Exactly.
So all the kit was on site for that. And then South Bank emails.
Right.
And they say, do you want to work? Obviously we want to work.
Yeah.
Obviously we want to get our name out there, but that involves buying everything one more time.
Exactly.
For 2 weekends.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you go for it? Do you not go for it? And
Right.
I think that's a crossroad a lot of people probably face in, you know, the world of startups. How quickly do we want to scale?
Exactly.
Do we want to scale? Can we afford to scale? You know, all of these questions, you know. So we decided to basically say, let's go. And we did it. And we bought all the equipment. And it was a success.
Because if we look at that sort of how quick do we scale, is you had to face another question then, which is cool. Now, how do we staff locations? Because it's easy to go from, okay, you're running it, you and your girlfriend run it, to now you needed staff for another location. Do you want to walk through that process?
Sure.
How you manage your staff? What was your ethos to bringing people on?
Sure. So I think when it comes to staffing, the staff are basically the face of the company.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter who is necessarily running it back of house, but whoever is serving your product and whoever's talking about your product really matters. You know, really matters. So again, I was very fortunate to be in an industry where I know a lot of freelance people who I've worked with for years, and I can trust.
Exactly.
So finding the right group of people, or having people to choose from wasn't the hard part. The hard part was finding people who have the right kind of energy. You know? So being RizzRice, the rice pudding's got to have charisma, but you yourself also have to have the personality. You know, you don't want customers walk into the bar and they just get like a blank faced person like,
exactly,
what do you want? You know, you want someone with a bit of personality who's going to give them a high five over the counter, talk to them, interact with the kids who can't really see up over the counter. You know, like, you need people who are going to have that energy. You know, and are also responsible to make the food to the food hygiene standards, and to put the date labels on, and to break down properly at the end of the day, and to cash up and do all of that. So I basically found I could have 2 people per site, including myself. I would fill in one of the sites, and that would be at max operation. I haven't needed more than 2 people. So I basically put 2 people at Kingston, and then I ran South Bank because it was a lot closer to my house. But that obviously comes with its own issues, you know, because as much as you can trust staff, I think anyone can appreciate that if it's not your business, you're not necessarily going to put 120% in. Understandably, you know, the owner of the company should be working the hardest. You know, which I feel like I do. And I don't blame anyone else for not working to
Yeah.
the same degree, but they're getting paid to do a job. They need to do the job, you know. So obviously, you can't check up on people when you're busy elsewhere.
Right.
So you just got to trust them at the end of the day. But it's a hard one, you know. It's a hard one because I would say if I didn't know the staff members ahead of time, I didn't have the history with them, I might not have done 2 locations.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can understand that.
Considering that it's a brand new company,
Yeah.
at the time when we had to move to 2 locations, we had only been trading for 1 week.
Right.
We had only done 7 days. Well, by the time we had done 1 weekend. So
Right.
the second weekend of trading, I needed to basically put 2 people
Yeah.
at a location that I was not going to be at.
Exactly.
And if it's new for me, it's rarely new for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've been making rice pudding for half a year already, but they've made it, 4 times?
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that they were comfortable. So if I just found random people, say on a WhatsApp group or through a recommendation,
Sure.
I probably wouldn't have done it.
How do you? So you've got a recipe, like you said. You spent 6 months getting this rice pudding right.
Sure.
How do you then? Do you just hand them a recipe? Did you walk through them with it and go cook it? What's the onboarding process?
Fine.
I guess?
Okay, so it's different now to when it was then, but before we started, I basically got 3 staff over to my house.
Yeah.
Before anything started, before we started day 1 of Kingston, and I basically gave them the rundown of the company, of the culture,
Right.
what we're trying to do. You know, there's an element of like motivating the staff, of being like, we're trying something brand new here.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's gonna go.
Yeah. Who's on board?
Let's hope it
Yeah.
does well, you know, but this is what's gonna happen. And I
Sure.
basically put out 4 rice cookers in my garden.
Yeah.
Because I had never tested it outside before. This was another thing. I'd only ever made it in my kitchen. So I was like, we're going to make it outside. It's like November. It's freezing. I was like, put your jackets on. We're going into the garden.
It's full simulation.
Full simulation. You know, if it rains, it must rain. You know, like, let's go. And basically, at that time, we had a chocolate base, we had a vegan coconut base, and a regular vanilla and cinnamon base.
Yeah.
And I basically said to them, this is the recipe. I'm going to make it. You're going to watch me make it.
Right.
Ask questions, let's talk, because we can come back to this point, but we make it in a rice cooker, which isn't, to my research, isn't the typical way to make rice pudding.
Sure.
Took me many goes to get it right, so it wasn't just like flick a button and let it
Yeah.
run. There's like a little bit of a process to it. So they watched me make it, and then I said, okay, now you're gonna make it. You're gonna make the chocolate one, you're gonna make the vegan one, you're gonna make the classic one.
Yeah.
Let them make the rice pudding, and then once they made the rice pudding, we practiced how it's gonna serve, and then we set up a garnish station on my kitchen counter. And I basically said...
It's too cold at that point to be outside.
Well, I just couldn't be bothered to set up a garnish station outside. But I basically said to them, everyone fill up, how many people do you have at home? Like, fill up cups for everyone. Yeah. These are the toppings that we're going to be selling, so practice the toppings, and then take the rice pudding home to your friends and family and see what they think, and then we can also get some feedback if the rice pudding is good or not.
And tag it on Instagram.
Yeah. And then as we started trading, the need to bring people to my house to do a full simulation isn't as necessary.
Yeah.
So we've brought more people on along the way, but then I just tell them, meet me on site when I'm trading.
Exactly.
So then you can see what the setup looks like.
Exactly.
Because seeing it at a rice cooker in my garden is different to being in a unit where things are actually operating and you can practice service and all of that.
Exactly.
So nowadays people just come on site.
Let's let's pick up on the marketing side on
Cool.
Your social media blew up pretty well.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, we did. We got pretty lucky there.
Yeah. Time Out picked you up out of nowhere.
Yeah. So, look, I can't necessarily say out of nowhere. Basically, we just started raw. So we started with no real marketing plan, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it slowly developed over time. like what our strategy is going to be, and it's still changing. We have, I'm sure most companies have this whole pipeline of social stuff that they want to do.
Sure.
But we just started regularly as possible trying to put posts out on Instagram. In the beginning, you feel very awkward doing it, you know, because you know most of the people that have followed you initially are your families and friends, and like...
Very interesting thought on season 1, episode 1 of Mercantile Accounting's podcast. Really, is it awkward?
So you know exactly what, like, the people who are going to be listening are people who are going to be like, Jayson, not your finest moment. You know, it's people who are actually going to see it, and also, like, based on this podcast right now, it's like it's your pilot. You know, it's the first stuff you're putting out.
Yeah.
If you go back to any company's like post 1, 2, and 3, it's not going to look like post 500, 501, 502. You know, so I just had to remember that, and slowly but surely the content started becoming more aligned to what Rizz is.
Sure.
You know, if you look at, say, the past 9 posts versus the first 9 posts, it's a very different energy that we're bringing to the Instagram page. And that's also come with the new year. After the Christmas market, we basically saw that as a proof of concept.
Yeah.
And then we rejigged a bunch of stuff, and we've put out the new Rizz, basically.
Yeah.
But this new venue that we have joined this year, called the Canteen Food Hall, which is just outside North Greenwich Station at the O2 Arena.
Yeah.
They brought us on board, and they have a PR team who I won't name just in case of privacy or whatever, but they basically helped us reach a series of publishers and magazines and Instagram pages. They basically just put out a PR notice that RizzRice is in town. Basically, that was it. And then we just started getting DMs, and like Secret London's DM'd us, and it's like, what? And like the Stylist magazine wants to speak about you, and Ooh magazine wants to speak about you, and there were all these little things that were just coming up, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then the big thing happened, that was Secret London, where they just basically came to the stall.
Sure.
They tried a bunch of rice pudding. They put out a really lovely video for us.
Nice.
And our Instagram really... I woke up the next day, my Instagram was doubled. Thank you, Secret London. That was fantastic. Really good of them. You know, they asked for nothing in return. They just wanted to get the name out there. I'm more than happy, you know, for people to come down, give us a shout out, get some rice pudding in return.
Yeah. What are we looking at for the future of RizzRice? What's the next 3-year steps, I guess?
Sure. So, well, I think right now we're still very new, and I think it's pretty much a common answer. We don't really know what we are yet. Yeah. You know, we have a vision of what we want to be, but it's a fine line between, because of all the attention we've had recently.
Right.
It's a fine line between just saying yes, 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 and trying to put yourself everywhere, or finding things that sort of fit what you're trying to do. And what we're trying to do right now is just basically get the name out there, get the message out there, and get as much feedback as we can on the product, you know? Because we know what we think works, but after hearing what the customers say and what the customers order, that obviously changes what we do, and it makes a big difference because we want to sell what people want. Yeah. So what we're doing this year is we're doing Foodies Festival. It's I suppose you can call it like a summer roadshow of food festivals. It's the UK's biggest food festival. Yeah. They have 12 different sites around the UK, from Edinburgh down to Brighton. You know, the whole stretch. We're doing 8 of them. From May to September, which will keep us busy. We're starting in Brighton on the 2nd of May. We're doing that. We've got 1 or 2 other food festivals that aren't affiliated with Foodies Festival. And then we'll be back in London at the Canteen Hall for October, being like a Halloween special. Sure. And then hopefully we get into some more Christmas markets. That'll be really cool. Yeah. But that's the immediate plan. Sure. Long-term plans, we're going to figure it out. We would love to get, you know, somewhere permanent, somewhere where it's not setting up and breaking down every day. Sure. As much as we love that, I think the the key to doing that is to figure out where your customer base is.
Yeah.
You know, so right now we're in Greenwich. There's great feedback, but who knows if we move to, say, Brighton, and if people love it, then it's like, okay, well, if we're going to open up a shop, maybe let's do it in Brighton. You know.
Yeah. Maybe people of Brighton hate rice pudding.
Or maybe, you know, thank God I didn't. Thank God I didn't open up a shop there and sign a 5-year lease or something. You know what I mean? So that is sort of the plan for this year, going everywhere, which will sort of dictate the next plans of, okay, we want to plant our feet somewhere, we want to set up shop basically, and like a space that we could make ours, and like the whole energy of the shop could be Rizz instead of having a gazebo set up and selling out of there.
Yeah.
As that's nice, it's not necessarily a forever plan.
It's also more, you have more control over the customer experience you're providing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And you can offer more. You
Right.
know, I can only offer so much in my 3x3 gazebo from
Yeah.
12 till 6.
Yeah.
You know? If I have like a kitchen at the back and I can like have permanent freezer space and fridge space, the possibilities of what I can do for Rizz go up.
Exactly.
But this is exactly why we've chosen to go the route that we've gone with street food.
Let's game theory that out, right? So say you went with your original idea, which is sweet arancini.
Yeah,
You built a whole kitchen around serving sweet arancini.
yeah,
Built a menu around it. You pulled on full-time staff, lease, etc., etc. It's a massive ship to try and turn around when sweet arancini didn't work.
yeah,
And now you pivot to the rice pudding, which was always an item on the menu, but wasn't necessarily a star.
yeah.
Now to try and pivot your whole branding, that'll keep you up at night.
Yeah, 100%. And you're stuck where you are.
Yeah.
You know, you've rooted your feet
Yeah.
in this location, which is fine if you've done the research and you understand why you've arrived at this location.
Exactly.
You know, and I think this information is still valid for people who even have the funding. You know, if you can start a bakery, if you can tomorrow open up a bakery in the most perfect area in London.
Yeah.
But you want to open up a bakery because you have a great concept for one and you like going to bakeries, but you're not necessarily a baker.
Yeah.
Is it not a better idea to start as small as you can
Yeah.
and sell your stuff at a little stall or online where you can sort of get a feel for what you're doing
Yeah.
before you go and you spend £100,000 on all your overheads,
Yeah.
and then even if you don't sell, you still have staff to pay and rent to pay and all of that.
Exactly.
So I get why people run and jump into those sorts of things because it's exciting and people want to get keys to a lease and like set up the whole thing. But there is something to be said about being more patient and being more holistic with why you're doing it and what you're doing it for, and like preserving the longevity of the business and your finances. Frankly, you know, a street food business is expensive already. You know, like, I'm shocked at some of the things we have to pay for pitch fees and equipment and all of that. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine what it would be like right now if it wasn't just a street food store. You know what I mean? Like the money would be going out your account so quickly. You would rarely have to have the expertise and the experience to deal with that. And a lot of people do, you know, and there's a lot of successful businesses out there. But for the people who are thinking of starting something, start small, take your time.
Because everyone comes up with an idea that this is the business they want to start, they're going to sell this, and just go do it. Jump in the market and start selling it.
Yeah.
Because when it's inevitably wrong, and it will be wrong, the market will tell you what they want from you. And as long as you learn to sell that.
That's 100% it. And in the world that we're living in now, you can sell online. You know, you can sell food and bev products just to my industry. You can sell food and bev products from your kitchen at home.
Yeah.
You know, you just like there's a quick, you know, you just have to get a food hygiene inspection. You have to get all your ducks in a row, but you can do it. You know.
Yeah.
If you make great sourdough and you're like, I want to make a website and sell this to people, you can do it. You know? You don't have to decide that it's only going to work if you have a bakery, and then you look at how much money a bakery will cost to just open the doors on day one, how much money will need to go in for that, and then you decide you're never going to do it.
Yeah.
You know, because how many people just
Exactly.
have that money lying around?
Yeah.
You know, so explore those passions whilst you have your full-time job, whilst you have money coming in, and then when you get some traction, hell, go to a part-time job. You know, and then hopefully one day you can let go and pay yourself, which is obviously the dream that we're all trying to get, you know, in the small food world. But yeah, it's certainly possible. Certainly possible. So yeah, that was a big decision I had to make in the beginning. I was like, do I go like permanent location or do I go street food? Because fortunately I had the option to choose either. And I really wanted to go for a permanent location, but that's an emotional thing.
It's
you know,
an emotional.
a lot of people want to have those four emotions,
and it's a vanity decision as well. It feels a lot better to go tell all your friends you've opened a restaurant. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, exactly, but then in 9 months' time, when your friends want to come, but
the doors are closed.
But the doors are closed, and now you're in debt, and you have to go get a full-time job again. Like how cool is that? You know. And I'm not saying that is the case.
Yeah.
But it happens. It does happen. You know. And I think for me, there's a lot more satisfaction about starting small and getting those little wins. You know, getting into a market and being like, we got in there, and then you slowly build, and then you look back from where you were a year ago, and you're like,
yeah,
that's really cool. And then when you get to the place you want to be in, say 5 years, 10 years, it's been a gradual process, and when you get the shop, you're ready for it.
Get into the handshake on a new market. So how do you get in the door?
Okay, it depends on the market. Okay, I've had like 3 very different experiences. One contacted me. The other one was literally just a web submission for Kingston Market. But the caveat with that is you have to know the window of when the applications are open.
Right.
Right. If you don't do that, sometimes the application will close and you don't even have a shot.
Sure.
But then I suppose what's important is having a good proposal.
Sure.
You know, you want to send a professional looking deck of what you do, what you offer, why the market needs you. You know, so if you're going to try and get into these top markets, you need to know what's at these markets. You know, I can tell you pretty much all the traders at the South Bank market. I can tell you all the traders at Canteen.
Yeah.
Because you have to know, is your product going to fit in there? Is it not? Yeah. You know, and make that decision before you apply, because you don't want to apply and they say yes, then you decide no. That's not cool.
Right.
So you got to make the deck, tell them why you would be a benefit to their market, basically. And then you got to hope and pray they reply to you. Basically that, like, and that's a waiting game, because in London, if you look at the big ones, if you look at, say, Camden, Spitalfields, Borough, what's that one called? Camden, Spitalfields, Borough, you just can't apply.
Right.
You can't.
It's
not as you can't do it. You can put yourself on like a waiting list, but it's not like they say we're not open. Oh, the Maltby market also. Right. They've rarely gotten popular now. You just can't apply. Yeah. You know, you just can't do it. So I love that though. I really do love that, because when you look at those markets, they're all established brands and they're doing it right. You know, whereas in the street food game, there is definitely like the idea of earning your stripes. Sure. You know, you're not going to start like a burger joint, and 2 months in you're going to be at Borough Market. It doesn't work like that. Sure. You know, you got to go to like the Blue Market in Bermondsey. Then you got to go to this and like slowly build yourself up, so that when you're going to, say, South Bank Market, you're able to say, previous experience, I've been here, and here. Exactly. And sometimes, or maybe you've had to go to these markets and make 2 sales in a day, or make 10 sales in a day, to get the experience. Sure. You know, and that's what those markets are for. You're not going to be rammed with 200 orders a day, but you might not be ready for 200 orders. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you
think you're ready for 200.
You think you're ready, but like you might not be. You know, so it's like it's slowly taking the small ones, because there are a lot of markets in London that will take you as a brand new trader. They will take you, but with that, it's not going to be a Borough or a Spitalfields or a Camden where It doesn't matter if there's rain or shine, you have a line.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time and it takes perseverance and it takes interesting concepts to get there.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to build yourself up, and then hopefully one day, please God, you can get into these big places.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of incubator programs. One that does a really good job is Curb. They have the Seven Dials market in Seven Dials, right by Covent Garden in London. And that's like a double-story street food unit, basically, which is a really cool concept where they take street food kitchens and they let them go into like a restaurant setting. So you can just go sit in the dining hall and you can go pick from 20 different suppliers. But what's
busy in there?
It's busy. But what's nice about what they do versus, say, Borough Market, this is just my opinion, but like, if you go to Borough Market today, you'll find the same traders largely that were there 4 years ago. 3 years ago, you'll find the same traders. And I don't know how those traders get those spots or what their leases look like. But at the Seven Dials market, it's busy, probably just as busy as, say, the other big markets. But they let traders go in there that aren't trending, that aren't viral. You go look at some of those companies, you look at their Instagram, they've got 350 followers. And you're like, oh,
I could do that.
There's a chance, you know. And companies that go in there, again, I won't name names, but I know brands that have gone in there. They've spent 3 years in Seven Dials, and they leave it with like 4 restaurants. You know, because they've done so well. And then the Seven Dials market, they will have a changing of suppliers. So a time will come when it's like, okay, everyone get out. We're bringing in fresh faces, you know, so you can't just plant your feet.
Very much bringing in fresh meat.
Bringing in fresh meat, literally. So there's places like that too that you can try and get into if you go through Curb. They do an amazing job. They also have an incubator program that trains you to be a better street food trader if that's what you need to. So that's basically the process. And then when you finally get in front of someone and they want to talk to you or they want to taste your product, be ready. You know, be ready. Know what you're going to talk about when you're sitting there in front of them. Rehearse if you have to. I was rehearsing before I went out my first few interviews, you know. And then give them some food to try, you know, and then hopefully they want you.
I mean, I always wondered, sort of, surely when a market's being set up, they have to balance savoury versus sweet standards. Is there a difference in the level of competition?
So there's always way more savoury.
Right.
So where I am right now at the Canteen Food Hall, we're the only sweet food trader.
Right.
Which is why they brought us
exactly.
on. Markets in the past has been other sweet traders, but typically if you're doing dessert, you pay a lower pitch fee than savoury traders because they know if people are coming to eat, they're definitely getting savoury. They might get sweet.
The upsells dessert.
Yeah, the upsells dessert. I mean, it's the same with the drink, basically. That's why a lot of street markets, they own the bar.
Right.
They won't let someone come in and do a bar because they know no matter what, especially in the UK, you're getting a drink. No matter what. Even if you don't eat, you might say, I'm not going to eat, but I'll
get a drink.
You know? So they know everyone that's walking in is getting a drink. And I think the sweet food traders are like on the bottom of the pecking order.
Yeah.
You know, it's like drinks, savoury food, dessert.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're doing a dessert offering that people haven't seen before. Because people see ice cream and they know what it is and they know if they feel like it or not.
Yeah.
But when they see rice pudding, they don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an inquisitivity project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So either you get the people who are like, I don't like rice pudding. See you later.
Yeah.
Or you get people who are like, oh my god, we have this back home in Portugal. Like, let me try some. You know, so that is part of our educational stint at the moment, where we're trying to educate customers that rice pudding tastes good.
Yeah.
You know? There is a stigma in the market. It's very much like Marmite. You know, they love it or hate it. You know, so we are conversing people every week. You know, we are doing God's work. You know, we are conversing people on the streets of London every week.
Yeah, the Church of Latter-day Rice Pudding.
We are, bro. We are literally. But yeah, like it's a tricky one, and sometimes I kick myself for putting myself in a position where I'm trying to sell something that has such a divide.
Yeah.
But the goal is to reignite the love for this dessert.
Yeah, exactly.
Like truly it is. You know, I want to look back one day at rice pudding being mainstream again, and saying I had a part to play in that. You know, like genuinely, like that would be worth more than any other outcome.
I love chatting people who started their own businesses back. It's like, why did you do this?
Yeah.
Why would you step away from a perfectly reasonable job and take the risk and put the capital down?
Yeah.
And the long nights. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to go more depth?
I mean, it takes a certain type of person to do that, you know, and I mean, I've always been entrepreneurial. I started my first company when I was 15.
Yeah.
And since then, I've held full-time jobs. I held two full-time jobs over the span of 6 years, and it's perfectly nice. But and great learning opportunity. I must say, I think everyone should dabble in a full-time job at some stage in the industry they want to be in, because it allows you to see and learn in a risk-free environment.
Do you understand what a crazy sentence that is? Everyone should dabble in a full-time job at some point in their life.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because some people are great employees and they want to work for someone and they don't want the stress of running or starting a company.
Sure.
And that's fine. That's why,
you
know, businesses need employees. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee, but I think if you know that you want to start a company, you know. At least I knew. I knew from when I started my first one at 15. I've been working at companies, and again, amazing. I've traveled the world, I've made friends. You know, you obviously get your salary, it's all great, but...
Served champagne to Camilla Harris.
You know, all of this stuff. But there's always been points in both jobs that I held where I was like, I wouldn't do it like that, or I think the company could go in this direction, or there's little things where I couldn't at that point be a happy team member because I see a different direction.
Sure.
And I think my job fulfillment comes out of creating something from scratch and building a brand. Like, that's where my true enjoyment comes out of it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And I think that an entrepreneur would have that idea.
I think entrepreneurs are a lot like that. It's a desire to build something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's not necessarily to be the boss of everyone. Like, God, that is like...
Yeah.
Like, if you know me and have managed you in the past, you know I'm the most chilled manager.
Yeah.
You know? I let you crack on, and if something's wrong, we'll talk about it. But generally, I don't like to dictate people.
No.
You know? I have an idea, I want to build something, and I want to have a say over how it's built, and I want to have a say over the direction of the company.
Sure.
And I think if you're not a director of a company, say you're a trusted member high up in the company, you have a say, but it doesn't... It can very easily carry no weight.
Exactly.
And it's really disappointing when you don't get heard.
Exactly.
You know, so to be able to have a company where you can make the decisions, and granted it might be a terrible decision, but that's part of the process.
Your terrible decision.
Exactly. No, but true though, you know, you only have yourself to blame.
Yeah.
And no company has made 100% good decisions.
No, of course.
You know.
Yeah, and that's something that I think a lot of people come to me and they say, I want to start a business, and but I'm just waiting to get enough experience. And when I know everything I need to know, there's not going to come when you know everything. Go out there, you'll make your mistakes, but you'll learn from them.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll learn a lot faster because at the end of the day, there is no salary if you don't get it right.
No, exactly. There's a lot that could go wrong.
Right.
But that's why, again, I think it's important to get a full-time... If you know you want to start a company, get a full-time job in your desired industry for a bit, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with, again, back to the bakery example. If you want to start a bakery...
Right.
why don't you go work in Gales for 6 months and see what it's like?
Yeah.
You know, see how things run, see how things operate, see when the baker makes the bread and when it comes out and how it's stored. Like, go put yourself in that environment.
Yeah.
At a minimum wage job. Like, it doesn't matter if you want to do it, like that shouldn't deter you.
Yeah.
You know, going and working in a bakery for 6 months as the example to understand. You know, because
and you're gonna learn a lot more about opening your own bakery on minimum wage in Gales. Then we don't know that what Gales pays. Maybe they pay living wage.
Fine. I mean, no disrespect.
But yeah, you're gonna learn a lot more at an entry level job at Gales than you are if you've got a higher degree in, for example, tech or something where you're unrelated. Go into your industry. It doesn't actually matter what level you're at.
What have you got to lose? You know, you're going to start a company anyway. You're not going to be paying yourself a salary anyway. Why don't you just see the start of your experience as the start of your company?
Yeah.
You know, before you launch, it's like it's your R&D before you start.
Exactly.
You know.
So I mean, you mentioned earlier that RizzRice is zero waste. Do you want to chat through sustainability and your approach to it?
Yeah. So sustainability is obviously a very hot topic, as it should be and should have always been. But I think everyone has got a responsibility as a food or drink trader to limit your waste.
Sure.
So we are proud to say we have no waste. We have a zero waste policy. Whereas, as I said earlier, we obviously have the sweet arancini, and if it doesn't sell, it can be frozen. But it hasn't gotten to that point. You've always managed to, sell everything. But with that, with the whole sustainability, an important part is obviously supplier sourcing. So the UK doesn't make rice. There's nothing we can do about that. So where possible, we're always getting local ingredients. Fortunately, Britain is amazing for dairy. There's no shortage of local whole milk dairy supplies. So we only use British organic whole milk.
Fantastic.
British sugar, vanilla. We use the most sustainable vanilla we can find. You obviously can't grow vanilla bean in the UK, but that's just the way it is. Cinnamon sticks, you can reuse them up to 5 times. So when we cook with cinnamon, we use the sticks, not the powder. We put it in a spice bag and we wash the cinnamon out and we use it until the flavor's gone, basically.
Sure.
And something exciting that's literally happened today is we've just partnered up with a local jam company who's actually in Bermondsey.
Oh, fantastic.
They are called England Preserves. They make a bunch of low sugar jam options. I think they have a really good sustainability message too. They're also like a family-owned company that started from street food. And now they're a big jam company. And we've decided to collaborate. So every portion of rice pudding will be served with England Preserve jam or curd or whatever their product line states. We're making a collab. So that every topping that we have is coming from a locally sourced, family-run company, which is incredible. And we're going to be rolling that out for summer. So that's epic. We literally agreed upon it this morning. So yeah, that's really exciting. And that only came about because we were sitting at home eating England Preserves, and I was like, this is really, really good jam. And then we were like, let's try it on the rice pudding. And we were like, that's really good. And then we were like, we should speak to them. And then we spoke to them, and they were like, this is great. And we were like, well, this is all just working out perfect, isn't it? Rather than using a mass supplier,
of course,
that makes jam in Scotland, and it all has to get driven down. Like, we know everything's made here, and it's as local as can be.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's pretty cool.
Let's chat about how people reacted to your product. So any fun stories from trading, kids get excited?
Yeah, definitely. I've started, but I can feel like I can say I've already seen it all. So gosh, where do I even begin with this? So as I said, I've had really mixed emotions. Some people walk past and they're absolutely don't have any time for it because they've had a negative experience of rice pudding in the past and they don't even want to see it. I've had people that have tasted it, and some of the best compliments are it tastes like a hug. You know? It tastes like a warm hug, and I'm like, well, that's exactly what we're trying to do, you know. I've had repeat customers. I love it where someone will buy rice pudding and then they'll go away and they'll come back like 2 hours later and they'll be like, me again, and I'm like, that's so nice to see, you know, like to have a repeat customer. And when people just take pictures and put it online too, and just show some love about the brand unasked. You know, they've just decided that that's what they want to do, and they love the product. So I think generally speaking, there's been a really good response, and people love the brand and love what we're doing. And it's really good to see. The kids love it, of course. Some people who I wouldn't suspect to be rice pudding fans end up come in, like, you know, like you'll see like a group of lads, like 5 or 6 lads, like walking out of the O2, they're like all cool, and then they come over to the rice pudding and they're like, we have 3 raspberry rizzles, mate. So it's like, okay, I see you.
And that's it for episode 1 of Mercantile Minute. I hope you took something away from this. Like I said, socials are in the descriptions below. And if you have a business and you'd like to be on the podcast, please follow our LinkedIn page and contact us through that. Goodbye for now.